I'm Maddie, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be showing you some Procreate basics, just the general things on how to use the app. I did a live stream at the beginning of the year, and this is one of the videos that you all said you wanted to see. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on with the video. The first features I wanted to talk about in Procreate are the different canvases. So when you go to create a new project, there are a bunch of pre-existing canvas sizes that you can choose from, but you can also create your own custom canvas with your own dimensions as well as DPI. When it comes to dimensions, I think it's really important to think about what you are designing for. So if you are using Procreate to make a YouTube thumbnail, then you would want to create a new custom canvas with the correct dimensions for a YouTube thumbnail. You can find the dimensions for a lot of different things with a simple Google search. 300 DPI is a solid high def option, but you can always go higher if you find that the resolution that you selected is not working for you. The next feature that I wanted to talk about are the different layers. Layers make or break an art project, because if you don't have enough layers, then you're more likely to mess up more of your artwork when you make a mistake or need to go to erase, and the more layers you use, the better. First, for the background layer, you can pick any color that you want to. Normally, I don't find what color I set the background layer to be super important because I wind up cutting it off later, which I will talk about at the end of the video. But what I do find helpful is making each new section of the artwork on a new layer. So that way, if I make a mistake, I don't mess up a lot more of the artwork. However, if there is an image that you create in multiple layers and you're happy with how it turns out, you can actually group all of those layers together into one new layer, so then you can make changes to it and move it around all as one piece. But working on different sections on different layers and then combining them will be much better than doing it all in one layer. You can also change things like layer opacity and stuff like that to make different sections of the piece pop. Next, probably the tool used the most are the different brushes offered through Procreate. You can get all sorts of different textures and styles for the brushes. I think you can even buy and download brush packs into the app if you want to. My personal favorite is using the calligraphy script brush. I use that for pretty much all of my designs, regular drawing, writing, etc. But if there is a specific look that I am going for, then I will play around with the different brush types and textures to see what matches my need the best. For example, whenever I took these Instagram photos, the bottom part of the building I was in front of was very rusted, so I used an airbrush to take the gray color from the building and go over the rusty section to make it not look as bad. And that was an instance where the script brush would have been much too small and concentrated for what I was going for. Whenever you're selecting the brush, there are a lot of different settings that you can go into and mess around with. I find that a lot of the settings that are naturally applied to the brush work the best. However, I do like to turn on the streamlining feature, and this just makes the movements you create much more smooth and fluid. On the left hand side of the app, you can control the brush thickness and opacity pretty easily, and I find it really convenient that Procreate has those settings right there, because I'm always finding that I want different thicknesses for when I'm writing versus adding little doodles to thumbnails, or if I am creating a colored backing behind the words, I might want that section to be a lower opacity. But you can always turn down the general layer opacity if you forget to change the brush opacity when you are writing. Next, let's talk about palettes. I absolutely love that you can create custom palettes on Procreate, because there are a lot of instances where you have colors that you want to keep coming back to, and you can easily save them by adding a custom palette. To do this, you just click the plus icon under the palettes, name it whatever you want to, and then when you have a color on your brush that you want to save, you just tap it in one of the little squares and it populates there. But if you accidentally do that, you can press and hold to delete a color. Since I use Procreate for my YouTube channel a lot, I have a YouTube palette that has all of the colors that I have used for my YouTube channel and might want to use again, and this helps me to have a consistency with the colors in my brand, I guess you could say. This is also really helpful whenever you are working on projects that have a lot of different color components, so that way you don't have to like keep pressing and holding over the color. You can just tap it in your palette. That is another feature that I wanted to talk about, is that if you press and hold over a specific color, it'll automatically change your brush to that color, which is super helpful for color matching when you're doing color blocking or a project similar to that. Also, if you accidentally draw something in the wrong color and want to change it, you can change your brush color and then drag it onto the section that you want to change the color. It's pretty cool. I've done that several times where I do something, let's say white, and I don't think it looks interesting enough, so I'll change it to the lavender color that I use a lot on my channel, and I wind up liking that a lot better, or vice versa. So there are a few drawing features that I wanted to talk about. The first is the like snap in place feature, is what I like to call it. Essentially, if you're drawing a line or a shape, if you hold the brush steady for a few seconds, it will snap it into a perfect version of that shape. I find this super helpful when I'm drawing stars on my thumbnails or wanting to create a box of color behind words, because it just makes it look like I'm so much better at drawing than I actually am, and I highly suggest that you try this out. The one thing that I will say is if you're drawing curvy lines, do not press and hold, because then it will try and straighten it up and you'll have some weird diagonal shape. But let's say you accidentally do that, you can simply take 2 fingers and tap down on the screen to undo, or you can use the undo button, but I find it a lot more convenient to do the double finger tap. But if you didn't mean to undo it, no worries. You can take 3 fingers and tap down on the screen and it will redo what you just undid, if that makes any sense. When it comes to erasing, I was very impressed that Procreate allows you to choose your eraser option. So like I said, I enjoy drawing with the script brush a lot. So to match that, I have my eraser in the script style as well. And I think that's really important to match your eraser to your brush technique, so that way it doesn't look as awkward when you are erasing stuff. It looks much more natural and not as sharp. Again, going back to what I was saying earlier about how important having multiple layers is, when you are erasing, you can only erase on the current layer. So let's say you drew the petals of a flower and you were working on the center on a new layer and you messed up. When you go to erase, it's not going to mess up the petals that you previously drew, which is so nice because you're not destroying the hard work you just created. Another feature that I have found to be so helpful is the select feature. So when you press select, it's going to select everything on the layer. Again, this is why having multiple layers is very important. But then you can resize it and move it around all over the canvas to get it positioned exactly how you want it to be. I find this uber helpful whenever I'm writing text on a thumbnail, because it allows me to make it bigger or smaller if I didn't write it the correct size initially, and I can make sure that it's centered on the thumbnail, which is something very important to me. I like to make sure that things are centered and symmetrical, because otherwise it bothers my OCD. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is exporting. So whenever you go to export, you can have the option to cut off whatever layers you don't want to export. So whenever I have cool doodled text in my videos, I always make sure to cut off the background layer so it is a PNG file and looks much nicer on the screen than if it were just kind of moving in a white box. But let's say you were drawing a flower and you wanted it to come on the screen slowly, then you can export different pieces of the image and then have them come on as you want to. You could get as detailed with this as you wanted in creating your animations. I like to keep it pretty simple because it is very time consuming to make them, which is why I don't really put a lot of animations in my videos besides some simple text, because it takes forever. But to export it, it gives you all different options for what type of file you want it to be. Then you can either save it to your camera roll, or I normally just directly airdrop it to my laptop. But it just makes it so convenient to add cool, unique elements into my videos. So those are all of the basic aspects to Procreate that I think are essential to understanding how to work the app. If you learned something from this video, you should give it a thumbs up and comment down below what your favorite things to create in Procreate are. And while you're down there, be sure that you're subscribed and have the bell turned on. That way you can be notified every single time I either upload a new video or go live. All those things really do help my channel grow, and I would appreciate it so much. I also wanted to mention that I have a video about how I use Procreate for my YouTube channel, so how I make thumbnails, animated text, and even color blocking. If you're interested in that, I will have it linked down in the description box. And yeah, I will see you all in my next one. Bye!
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast.
It's not about personality matrixels and charts. It's all about the bumps in your heart.